do you have?
Mhm.
When I see what you post, it looks to me like you have TDS. I'm just telling you, it
No,
does.
I
And I'm not the only one that's
constant.
noticed it.
That's
I'm not
fine,
the
but
only one. Ask me
right. But
to tell
are
you why
feelings
I
more
feel the way
important?
that I do.
Are feelings more important than facts?
I think that, and why do you think that I've posted things? Because I do believe that there's facts out there. I don't go off my feelings. You assume that I'm a bootlicker and I'm a MAGA and all this, which I am MAGA
You are
because
a MAGA.
I do stand for making America great, keeping
You
America great. I want us to
calling
be
me a
a
racist and
wonderful.
is calling me a
I want
racist in keeping with being MAGA?
I want what I consider myself is I want safe borders. I want secure borders,
Yep,
which means we need ICE. But why do you have?
Mhm.
When I see what you post, it looks to me like you have TDS. I'm just telling you, it
No,
does.
I
And
have.
I'm not the only one that's noticed it.
So we are going for liftoff in T-30. Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. Secondary guidance systems engaged. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark. All systems are a go. All systems are a go. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.
Did it again. Welcome, folks. Double header, season 4, season finale of Libertarian Lowdown. You guys are gonna love this. You're in for a treat here. You're gonna like. I got to do this. I got to make sure I share my own. I'm terrible about sharing my own content, by the way. I know it's weird to say about being terrible sharing your own content, but yeah, I am. I'm terrible. But yeah, here we are. We're going to be talking about the dangers of bootlicking. And if you're not familiar with the dangers of bootlicking, I don't know if there's much help for you other than to sit here and watch this content. And we're not going to go terrible long on this one because this is the season finale. And I'd certainly would love to field questions. Folks, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do. If you have been watching for a while and haven't become a channel member like Jerry, who just became a channel member in the first part of the doubleheader, please do become a channel member. I'm very, very thankful for all the channel member support. I'm thankful for the people that come in at the top with that level of show producer. The angry vet, he pops in from time to time, especially when I'm doing my drive time dialectics, and just tosses free membership for you, free membership for you. He's kind of like the Oprah of law enforcement and government accountability. But yeah, the reality, and my volunteer researcher who has just done a massive amount of work and data requests and whatnot pays for all of that out of their own pocket. So that's show producer level credits right there. So, but yeah, as I said before, by the way, too, when I ask for these things, I'm not asking you guys this because I'm making thousands and thousands of dollars. I've never asked anybody to pay me to cover their content, their story. That's not how I work. So if you've ever heard that, no, I'm not a grifter. But I do really appreciate the support that's out there. And I'm thankful for the people that have decided to become part of that support structure. And I'm thankful for the super chats and the super thank yous. And some people, like I said before, some people have said, hey, how can we support you directly without having to go through Google or Subscribe Star where they're taking a cut? I now have a Cash App set up for mbrrmedia. It's $mbrrmedia. It's in the description of this video if you're interested in helping with that. So without any further ado, we're going to we're going to talk a little bit about the lead up to my conversation with Connie, where um, there was some, shall we say, confusion about my political philosophy and where I stand on issues. And as you heard in the opening clip before the opening intro music came in, I was accused of being a racist. She called me a PDF file, all sorts of things. Um, but one of the most telling parts of our interaction from the day that I had her on was the uh, oops, that's not the part I'm looking for. Um, well, something's not working right here. I lost my. I had it all set up in the time frame that I wanted, and um, now it's not cooperating. But so bear with me, folks. Talks amongst yourselves, right? Because I really need to find this, and I want to. Yeah. So yes. So the weather. That's very good. Save save the show, Caden. Thanks for being here, Caden. By the way, I have no problem with people disagreeing with me. What I have a problem with is being told that I'm something that I'm not because you disagree with me. You
Well, you
said
have to
some.
also understand with somebody in your not the
I
only
have
one that's
constant.
noticed it.
That's yes, and
I
they
think
have
they're doing a
arrested
great job
American citizens. Oh, here we go. This is the section.
things because I
It's about law
don't
enforcement
think
because
so.
you.
I think that there
Mhm.
needs to be accountability. I appreciate that because like I said, I am on borrowed time here and my time's precious and
Here we
that's
go.
my top priority.
Absolutely.
Um, but I'm just going to quickly,
So yeah, um, this is Connie, and she's going to start off with kind of coming at after me for my stance on holding law enforcement accountable. And we kind of get into some weird territory where she talks about ICE, and we're just gonna let her talk. And then I've got some information for you guys. We're gonna talk about whether or not ICE is law enforcement, you know, because they are. But we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about your rights when it comes to interacting with law enforcement, and what law enforcement can and cannot do. So here we go.
I'm going to just quickly tell you why I feel the way that I do. And then you can do with it what you want, really, honestly.
I am doing what I
I
want with
don't
it
like,
right here.
I feel like, first of all, I don't even know how we ended up we're not even in the same state. So I'm not really sure how we ended up as even social media acquaintances, if you will, but that's neither here nor there. It happens all the time. But this is what I see. I see F the police, F ICE, and Orange Man bad. And now I see CDS, which I'm considering Connie derangement syndrome.
Yeah. She diagnosed me with a derangement syndrome that she created all about herself. Yep.
Because you've completely. So now that's your four things. It's me, Orange Man bad, F police, F ICE. And I am totally for law enforcement. I think they do a great job.
I am totally for law enforcement. I am totally for law enforcement. What she says here, that's troubling. No one should ever be totally for anything. That's like someone saying, I'm totally for the military going and bombing X. I'm totally for that. I'm totally for the military bombing places. Which places? Is there any room for that to not happen?
I don't think all police officers are bad. I think that there's corruption, of course. I think that there needs to be.
So if there's corruption, are you totally for law enforcement? Connie, if there's corruption, are you totally for law enforcement? Does this make sense? Hey, STD, good to see you. Thanks for being here. I'm very thankful for everybody that did come over from the first half of the doubleheader, by the way, and I hope you guys will share this out. And once again, hit that like, hit that share, hit that super chat, become a member. But how can you say in one breath, no, we're doing a different breakdown, Buster Cheeks. This is actually a breakdown about case law. So I haven't done any content about Connie since that day, but this is my season finale, Libertarian Lowdown, and Connie opens the door for us perfectly to talk about those things. But Buster, it's good to see you. But yeah, no, Connie's not back. But we are doing a breakdown here. And so I'm going to pull that back just a hair and we're going to listen to that again.
Do with it what you want, really, honestly. I feel like, first of all, I don't even know how we ended up we're not even in the same state. So I'm not really sure how we ended up as even social media acquaintances, if you will, but that's neither here nor there. It happens all the time. But this is what I see. I see F the police, F ICE, and Orange Man bad. And now I see CDS, which I'm considering Connie derangement syndrome, because you've completely. So now that's your four things. It's me, Orange Man bad, F police, F ICE. And I am totally for law enforcement. I think they do a great job. I don't think all police officers are bad. I think that there's corruption, of course. I think that there needs to be accountability, but they're not all bad. I have family and loved ones who are law enforcement, and they are great people.
That is a logical fallacy that in English is referred to as appeal to experience. So I have people in law enforcement that in my family that I know and love, and I think they do a great job. That it doesn't matter. The fact that you have family in law enforcement doesn't make law enforcement not corrupt. And it doesn't make your good family members don't make law enforcement a corrupt career field, Connie. It's just the fact. That's like somebody who, who's not in the mob, not in the mafia, the Costa Nostra, saying, look, I am I'm Italian by descent, I'm Sicilian by descent, and I have family that are in the mafia and they're good people. So my experience with them is they're very nice, they're very kind. So every single terrorist out there, their families all go, they're good people. Right? I mean, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that analogy is not accurate. So that's the reality of this.
I don't like when this is the problem that I have with somebody in your position. One, you say that you're an independent journalist.
Somebody in my position. I don't even know what that means. Other than when I say I'm an independent journalist, and I'm an independent journalistic commentator. I do breakdowns on socio-political, socio-cultural issues stemming, so government abuse and corruption. I am an independent, therefore I'm going to say things that are independent, and I'm going to say things that are going to be critical of both sides of the aisle, the two wings of the same bird flying us all in the same direction of tyranny. Because that's what I do. That's what I do.
So first of all, you should be able to handle
I
that's
handle
what you said. You said but say that you're independent, that you're an independent journalist.
I'll let you talk, but I know you got a limited amount of time. I am fine with critique. What I'm not fine with is labeling me a demon rat, calling me a PDF file, and you know what that stands for, because you called me a PDF file. You basically attacked my support of the veterans and the troops. You've made it very clear that criticism of law enforcement is the same as hating individual cops.
Well,
And
here's the thing.
you've jumped to some conclusions. You've jumped to some conclusions about law
I don't
enforcement
think
because
so.
because you don't know anything about my background or my family connections.
But you don't know about my background or my.
And I don't offer anything about my background or my family connections because my background and my family connections don't have any bearing on the nature of law enforcement. What it has bearing on is my ability to offer critiques and analysis, especially considering I have a brother who's been in law enforcement for over 30 years now. And I spent nearly 13 years as a deputy in the third largest metro area in the state of Minnesota, working for a sheriff's office inside of a detention center, hearing the cases, seeing the cases as they played out, seeing how reports were written. So I do bring a level of experience into this situation, but I don't appeal to that as an authority because my appeal to authority can be outdone by somebody else's appeal to authority. But it's because I'm not saying what Connie wants me to say, then I'm a person in your position, So I don't care about your background or your family members' backgrounds, Connie.
My family connection.
But I didn't
and
make
I
accusations. I didn't make accusations.
Here's the thing.
Give me the
answer. Here's the thing. I have asked you. I've asked you multiple times. You want to know why I feel the way about you that I do? One, because I've asked you multiple times. I said, okay, you have orange man bad syndrome. You have TDS.
No, I don't.
Why? Well,
voted for him.
I disagree. I disagree. Maybe you're somebody. Well, maybe you did. But why do you have?
It's like I'm literally saying this publicly. I voted for Donald Trump twice. And she said, maybe you did. Like, why would I lie about that? Like, what is that about?
When I see what you post, it looks to me like you have TDS. I'm just telling you, it does.
No,
I'm not the only one that's noticed it.
That's
I'm
fine,
not the only one. Well, you can defend it, and that's fine. I'm telling you how I feel. You asked me to tell you why I feel the way that I do.
Are feelings more important than facts?
I think that, and why do you think that I've posted things? Because I do believe that there's facts out there. I don't go off my feelings. You assume that I'm a bootlicker
and here's where we got to pay very close attention, folks. This is where it starts to get really off the rails for Connie, as far as I don't think she realizes the dangerous territory she's in. So you think I'm a bootlicker?
I'm a MAGA and all this, which I am MAGA.
You are a MAGA.
I do stand for making America great, keeping America great. I want us to
calling
be
me a racist
wonderful,
and is calling me a racist in keeping with being MAGA?
I want what I consider myself is I want safe borders. I want secure borders, which means we need ICE. We need ICE.
I am
then we need ICE.
I'm a paleo libertarian who's in support of closing the borders.
But the things that you post don't support that.
ICE is violating due process constantly every day. Yes, they are.
They're not.
They are.
I disagree.
Absolutely are.
I disagree.
You can disagree, Connie, but you're wrong. They do violate due process, and they have arrested American citizens. They've arrested American citizens.
You know, I'm as white. I'm so white that I make Casper Ghost look like he went to Florida and got a tan. Okay, I have been detained by ICE before. Okay, it's a simple process. All you do is you comply. First of all, it's not rocket science.
You comply. Now remember, I'm the racist. She calls me a racist. I'm the racist, but then she goes on to describe herself as the whitest thing in the world. But then says, you just comply. Just comply. It's the easiest thing in the world. Just comply. That should terrify people. That should absolutely terrify people. absolutely crazy that the response to this situation is, when you're detained by ICE, just comply. Why? Now, here's what we're going to talk about ICE, and Customs and Border Patrol. So the Supreme Court has given some wide latitude to ICE and some wide latitude to Customs and Border Patrol when it comes to the checkpoints that the identification checkpoints that they set up within 100 miles of the border. So anytime you're within 100 miles of the border or 100 miles of a coastline, Customs and Border Patrol or ICE can set up checkpoints anywhere along a road within that distance and demand identification during that stop. You can be required to, during that stop, prove that you have identification showing that you are an American citizen. SCOTUS has said, for the need of national security, security of the republic, security of the country, that Customs and Border Patrol can do that. Right? Now, outside of that 100-mile buffer around the United States, ICE and Customs and Border Patrol cannot just stop you and demand that you prove you're an American citizen. In particular, and remember, they're law enforcement, so they are beholden to the Fourth Amendment. They are beholden to due process. They are beholden to the Fifth Amendment. They're beholden to the First Amendment. And the courts have ruled that constantly. Just because you're federal law enforcement doesn't mean that you get a higher level of piss on people's constitutional rights than everybody else. So what's Connie like? First of all, okay, Connie, where were you detained by ICE? Where were you stopped and detained by ICE? Were you within 100 miles of a border? Then I do recommend that you comply, because the courts have ruled if you don't, you get what you deserve. Doesn't make it right, doesn't make it okay, doesn't make it lawful, doesn't make it constitutional. It just means that the courts have told them they can do it. Right? But when Connie says here that I've been detained by ICE and the best way around it is just comply. Where were you when you were detained? And what was their reason for detaining you? Because SCOTUS in September just said that probable cause for you to be stopped by ICE, and I'm not making this up. Bear with me. I'll type this into the search engine. SCOTUS grants wide latitude to ICE based on stopping people for their ethnic appearance. And it pops up in seconds. September 8th, 2025. The Supreme Court's recent decision allows ICE to conduct stops based on broad factors such as race, language, location, occupation, despite constitutional concerns. This ruling has been criticized for potentially leading to racial profiling and has raised a significant. This is why I don't do head-to-head shows very often. Significant concerns about the implications for immigrant rights and constitutional protections. The decision has sparked a debate on the balance between immigration enforcement and the individual rights, with some arguing that the court's ruling is a victory for the safety of Americans in California and for the rule of law, while others view it as an un-American and dangerous decision that threatens personal freedom in the United States. You can now be stopped by ICE anywhere in the country while they're on this enforcement kick, based on the fact that you don't look American. Now, what's an American look like? And now tell me that's not the very definition of racial profiling, that it's not the very definition of racism. Tell me. And Americans are okay with that. And Connie just said the best thing for you to do is comply. Sarah, I think it's a valid question to ask. I don't think we should just bend over and comply, but I do wonder what the alternatives would be to getting illegal immigrants out. I think we start first with saying, how are we going to, go about defining what they need to do to prove that someone's an illegal immigrant? And if we're going to pull people over or stop them as they're walking down the sidewalk based on how they look, that's a problem. And because SCOTUS gave them wide latitude on that, what if they decide because there's you live in a predominantly white community, then they're going to start to stop all the white people because, maybe there's a bunch of illegal Canadians around here. But there again, we have this 100-mile buffer zone that you better comply in. But outside of that, what are the obligations? Am I obligated to comply with ICE to prove that I'm an American citizen? And you need to listen to what Connie says here very closely. Listen very closely. If you didn't hear it before, you're going to want to hear this now.
Get in their face. You don't act like something, it's ridiculous.
I think do
that they're
that.
doing their job.
American citizens can agree, Connie, but you're wrong. They do violate due process, and they have arrested American citizens. They've arrested American citizens. They arrested an American pastor for doing nothing more than sitting outside of an ICE facility and praying, and they shot him in the head. No, this guy, they shot him in the head with a paintball or a pepper ball gun. He was just praying. That's a violation of due process. That's excessive use of force, by the way, as well. It violates all sorts of court rulings.
Okay, I'm as white. I'm so white that I make Casper Ghost look like he went to Florida and got a tan. Okay, I have been detained by ICE before. Okay, it's a simple process. All you do is you comply. First of all, it's not rocket science. You don't get in their face. You don't act like something. It's ridiculous.
I think do that. Doing their job. American citizens can get in their face. There are court cases that say that, yeah, you have a right to get in their face and say, what grounds are you doing this on? What's your probable cause? What's your or not even probable cause? That's a much higher standard. Reasonable articulable suspicion. What's your reasonable articulable suspicion that I've committed a crime? If I'm watching, I can shout at them. If I'm watching, I can yell at ICE agents. You want to know why? Because it's protected speech. The Constitution says it's protected speech. SCOTUS has said verbal interactions as you're observing law enforcement is not interference. And people have been taken down by ICE for interference for nothing more than verbal interactions. Are right.
Well, but again, then you wonder why things happen. I'm just saying, if you want to be that way and you want to get in their face and whatever.
If you want to exercise your rights, then you get what you deserve. That's when things happen. This is bootlicking 101, folks, but she's actually taking it to bootlicking 401. This is a master class of bootlicking. This is a master class of why we're losing our republic. Because the people who claim they're for law and order, but also for small government and also hate tyranny, are backing the very tyranny that they love or that they hate. They claim to hate. Because it's got a badge and a gun, and then therefore it can't be tyranny because it's on my side and it's doing what I want it to do. Just comply. Just comply. If you have nothing to fear, just comply. Bullshit. It's absolute hogwash. It's absolute bullshit. That's not how it should work. It should never work that way. That's why I have a massive problem with the Terry v. Ohio ruling.
But that's fine. That's your prerogative.
Is it illegal to get in ICE's face when they're going after American citizens?
They don't know that you're an American citizen. Your painkiller doesn't determine that.
Your skin color doesn't they don't know that you're an American citizen. I agree, Connie, but you're wrong. They do violate due process, and they have arrested American citizens. They've arrested American citizens.
You know, okay, I'm as white. I'm so white that I make Casper Ghost look like he went to Florida and got a tan. Okay, I have been detained by ICE before. Okay, it's a simple process. All you do is you comply. First of all, it's not rocket science. You don't get in their face. You don't act like something. You know, it's ridiculous.
I think do that. Doing their job. American citizens can get in their face. It's our right.
Well, but again, then you wonder why things happen. I'm just saying, if you want to be that way and you want to get in their face and whatever, that's fine. That's your prerogative.
Is it illegal to get in ICE's face when they're going after American citizens?
They don't know that you're an American citizen. Your skin color doesn't determine that. Does your skin color?
Their skin color doesn't determine that, except SCOTUS in September said it does. SCOTUS says skin color is an indicator of not being an American citizen. SCOTUS says that the language you speak is an indicator that you're not an American citizen, and therefore gives reasonable articulable suspicion to law enforcement to stop and detain you and force you to produce your papers.
Determine if you're an American citizen.
Wait a minute.
Does your skin color determine if you're an American citizen?
So you believe we should be required to carry some form of proof that we are an American on us at all times?
I think that
that's a poignant and key question, and not just because I said it is, not just because I asked it, but it's a poignant and key question because it's a poignant and key question. Should we as Americans be required to keep identification on us at all times, proving that what our status as Americans is? Should we? In our desire, I want actual criminal illegals gone. I want them deported. But does that mean every single American should therefore comply preemptively by going out and getting some form of identification to prove that I am who I say that I am, and just in case some off chance I decide or ICE decides to stop me as I'm walking around? Because Terry v. Ohio says all they have to do is have a reasonable articulable suspicion that you're committing a crime, and then they could stop you and force you to ID. And then in the process of stopping you and forcing you to ID, they can also do a pat down of you. And then they can also say, oh, by the way, since we have you here, we're ICE and we don't like the cut of your jib. So we're going to force you to produce evidence proving that you're an American citizen. And if I don't have my driver's license on me, how do I prove that? I have to give them my name. Now I've got to give my name to every single officer, ICE agent, if they decide they're going to start stopping everybody. The dangers that just the Supreme Court decision back in September gave us, not to mention the mentality of people like Connie, that folks, we've lost the republic. We're done. It's over. It's absolutely over. I am so black-pilled coming out of 2025 and into 2026. We're toast because of people like Connie, who swear to God they're small government and all about accountability for everybody but ICE. Because you just comply. Just comply. Just comply. That's all that matters. Just comply. That's how we end all this. Just comply. And if you don't want to comply, then you get what you deserve. You want to yell at them, get in their face, you get what you deserve.
You are stopped and asked, I think you should give them your information. They can
produce your papers. Produce your papers.
I didn't say papers. What do you not carry an ID? You don't have a driver's license?
Required to have ID on me to prove that I'm an American.
I think that it doesn't hurt to have your ID on you at all. You don't, and you're detained. There's other ways for them to actually verify it. You don't have
So
to prove it right
so
at that
you
moment.
are advocating that you better keep your papers on you in case ICE decides they want to stop you,
I
no
don't
matter
know what
where
you
you
mean
are.
by papers. I don't know what you mean.
I don't know what you mean by papers. This is either my interlocutor here is literally that dumb, or they know that they're backed into a corner. And I would say Connie recognizes she's backed into a corner. Connie recognizes she's literally arguing for an East German Stasi type life or a Gestapo type living. Like, she knows that. That's why she's, well, I don't know what you mean by papers.
By papers.
Identification,
Okay,
Connie.
that's like a driver's license. Okay,
That's
like a driver's
papers.
license.
That's papers. That's papers.
I think that it's very important that in the situation that we're going through right now, I think that we should have. So, are you against voter ID?
I'm against anyone.
Are you against voter ID?
She didn't even let me finish the question here. I'm literally just trying to answer, but.
So you're against voter ID, and you think that it's okay for illegals to go? Well,
to make it clear, I'm not against voter ID. I think that you should have to prove that you are an American to vote, but that's different. What she's doing here is it's a move of the goalpost. She's trying to compare things that are not the same. For one, if you're interacting with law enforcement at any level, you have massive amounts of protections in place. Well, you used to, but that, aside, when you move from the realm of interaction with law enforcement, where you're being accused of a crime or suspected of having committed a crime or about to commit a crime, then there are protections in place. Voting is a little different. Voting is the way that you are supposed to be able to have control of government. And so, yeah, I do think you need to be able to prove that you are an American citizen. But I also think we need to go back to having an intelligence test on voting, where a person who cannot explain how government works, you should have to, on a maybe once every 5 years, you should have to take a civics test to prove that you understand that, what the branches of government are, what the separation between the branches of government are, that you are able to articulate differences between states' rights versus federal government's, and what the supremacy clause is, in what that and how that matters and why. I think you should have to be able to articulate what the Bill of Rights is and why that matters. I do think those things are very important. I also think you should have to be a property owner to vote in the United States. I think you should have to own property and pay taxes to be able to vote. Yeah. I said that. You should have to pay you should have to be paying taxes on your property to be able to vote. There should be some litmus tests for voting. Paying taxes and being able to pass a civics test geared at a high school senior. If you can't do those things, you shouldn't be voting, because you can't be trusted. But see, Connie was too busy flapping her mouth to I guarantee you my standards for voting are much higher than hers. Much higher. But she has this false analogy that she wants to make between voter ID and being required to carry ID on you in case you get stopped by ICE. And it wasn't worth trying to interrupt her and get her to hear that. No, I didn't. I think you should be able to. I think you should be able to. I think you should be able to. You should identify yourself, but I also think you should own property to be allowed to vote.
Why would you have to have those papers? Why would you need those papers?
Because there's a difference between voting and walking down the street.
Well, what you're saying is happening isn't happening.
It is happening. It is happening.
You're not just walking down the street and ICE is taking you out. That's not happening.
No, there are people who are just showing up to observe ICE and shoot video who are being arrested.
You got that.
Who are being arrested for shooting video.
Observing.
Yes.
They're just observing.
Yes.
They're throwing things
Yes.
at their cars.
No, there was a
But
there.
you know what,
No,
guys? They're just observing. You heard it right.
so we're not gonna. Connie has laid the groundwork for us here, very clearly. She's very clearly laid the groundwork for us. I mean, Buster, it's a fair idea that if they crash the economy, which, they've already done, but, so we're going to, how are we going to do this here? So Connie's all twisted up in her own bootlicker mentality. Grampy guy, you feel sorry for her husband. Can you imagine having to sit in the background and listen to that and not go like, honey, stop making a fool out of us. Because she was doing that from her car with her family in the car, And then she was like, well, you didn't even give me a choice of a day. No, I didn't give you a choice. It's my platform. I get to do what I want with it. And then I get to say whatever I want about you. If you choose not to show up, credit to her for showing up. But so here's the problem. And we're going to, talk about this, briefly. So there are several Supreme Court cases and appellate court cases that are very important to a lot of this. And one of the first ones that I want to take a look at is Brown v. Texas versus from 1979. And so this is a Supreme Court case that addressed the Fourth Amendment's protections against unreasonable searches and seizures, as in not like, like medical conditions. So in El Paso, Texas, police observed two men standing on a street corner and apparently doing nothing. They suspected that the men might be involved in illegal activity, maybe possibly gang-related drug activity, right? They approached the men, demanded identification under a Texas statute that required a person to identify themselves to a police officer upon request. That's, by the way, has subsequently been changed in Texas. And now you do not have to ID yourself in Texas unless you're being arrested. So Texas got that one right. Brown refused to identify himself. He was arrested and charged under that now defunct Texas law. And the key question that came up was whether or not Brown should be arrested for refusing to identify himself and whether or not it violated the Fourth Amendment's protections against unreasonable seizures. And could they lawfully detain or arrest someone because they refused to provide identification when there was no suspicion of criminal activity beyond their mere presence on the street? And that's, and so this was an addendum to Terry v. Ohio. And it did add some restrictions on Terry v. Ohio. So the Supreme Court actually at the time ruled in favor of Brown and said, yeah, it did. It was an absolute Fourth Amendment violation. So they can't just stop you and say, I suspect, based on the fact that you look like you might be up to something. We can't just stop you and arrest you now because the law says that you have to ID once a cop demands it. And first of all, I just want let that thought process sink in. I'm going to have to wrap this up soon because I'm clearly getting tired. That you can be stopped by a cop and just told you have to ID or you're going to jail. And the court emphasized in this situation that you as cops, any law enforcement, you need specific articulable facts that are actually suggesting criminal activity in order to justify detaining someone. And that should very much be in your minds as we go forward with the end of this conversation. So then there was another case. This was in the Eighth Circuit, which is, covers like Iowa, Minnesota, Mississippi. And that case is 2005 Walker v. City of Pine Bluff. The plaintiff was John Walker, and the Pine Bluff was in Arkansas. And The officer is Terry Grace. Walker was driving through Pine Bluff with his family when he noticed a traffic stop involving 2 white people, police officers, and 2 young black men. He parked nearby. This is from 2005. Okay, so not terribly long ago. He parked nearby and walked across the street, watched the encounter from about 40, 50 feet away. Oh, I'm sorry. And he had his arms folded. He wasn't speaking to anyone nor interfering. And remember, interference as a bystander, interference is not observation, it's not recording, and it's not even speaking to the officers or the people involved. That is not interference. There has not been, that I could find, any case that says that it's interference to involve yourself verbally or vocally. He wasn't speaking to anyone nor interfering and couldn't hear what was happening. So this officer asked Walker what he was doing. He says, "I'm watching Pine Bluff's finest in action." They question him repeatedly about his identity. He shows his driver's license. And Officer Grace handcuffed him and placed him in a police vehicle, holding him for 20 minutes and driving him to the station, where he was ultimately arrested on obstructing governmental operations under Arkansas law. The charges were later dismissed. But he filed a Section 1983 federal lawsuit arguing his arrest violated his constitutional rights, to include his Fourth Amendment, right? And as we know now, spoiler, he won. And the main issue that popped up on this, and Skipper, if you happen to watch this, by the way, was the issue of qualified immunity. So this issue was Officer Grace entitled to qualified immunity for arresting Walker. Contrary to popular belief, qualified immunity does not keep officers from being charged with crimes. Qualified immunity only applies to civil litigation and facing repercussions of their actions if they violate somebody's civil rights while in the conduct of doing their job. And so basically they're asking the question is essentially whether a reasonable officer would have known that arresting an onlooker like Walker was not interfering, who was not interfering, violated a clearly established constitutional right. And there again, they were just interested in shutting him down. So the Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit affirmed the district court's denial of qualified immunity. So they said he should have known what he was doing was infringing upon this man's natural right to hold his government accountable. So what's that mean? It means we're entitled to observe as long as we're not interfering. And what's interference? Again, the courts have defined interference as physical interference, imposing yourself between an officer and a suspect, physically trying to stop an officer from arresting someone. Verbal interactions and observation, filming and whatnot are not interference. They're not interference. Yelling things at them are not interference. As STD put in, Houston v. Hill, speech alone cannot be considered interference. So Grace had qualified immunity removed at that stage and was able to face civil repercussions for that. And so one synopsis of this reads, this decision highlights that simply observing police conduct in public does not give rise to probable cause for arrest under obstruction statutes when there's no interference. Police officers may not rely on broad obstruction laws to detain or arrest individuals absent clear conduct that actually hinders a government function. It also emphasizes the protection against unwarranted arrest under the Fourth Amendment and limitations on qualified immunity in 1983 cases. So now, 2020, we have Chestnut v. Wallace, and this is a federal civil rights appeal involving police conduct and qualified immunity under the Fourth Amendment. So you had Kevin Chestnut was jogging in a park in St. Louis, Missouri, when he paused to watch police conduct a traffic stop. Okay. After the stop ended, he resumed jogging, but then stopped again to watch another traffic stop. St. Louis cops are clearly very busy. An officer described to Chestnut to dispatch as a suspicious person watching stops. Terry V. Ohio coming in here, folks. Coming in. And another officer, Darwin Wallace, responded. Wallace approached Chestnut, asked for identification, and when Chestnut said he had none, asked for his name and partial social security number. Based on what? Because an officer said he was suspicious. That's Terry v. Ohio, right? Reasonable, articulable suspicion. He doesn't even need to explain it. He's just saying he's being suspicious. He keeps watching. Wallace then frisked Chestnut, found no weapons, and directed other officers to handcuff him. Handcuff him. But why? Chestnut later provided his full social security number and was confirmed to have no outstanding warrants. After about 20 minutes, he was released. That is an effective arrest, by the way, folks. You're in handcuffs. You're not free to go. You're detained for over 20 minutes. That is an arrest. He was arrested. He just wasn't charged. He sued under 42 U.S.C. 1983, claiming Wallace violated his Fourth Amendment rights by detaining, frisking, and handcuffing him without reasonable suspicion or probable cause. And he absolutely won. He won, and qualified immunity was removed. So here's a little bit on the decision. The Eighth Circuit affirmed the district court's denial of qualified immunity at this stage. The majority held that genuine factual disputes existed about what happened and whether Wallace violated clearly established Fourth Amendment rights. The court compared this case to Walker v. City of Pine Bluff, one we just did. Eighth Circuit Court, and reasoned that a person observing police activity from a distance without interfering has a clearly established right to not be detained or arrested absent reasonable suspicion. Listen, it's clearly established right not to be detained or arrested absent reasonable suspicion if they're observing police activity from a distance without interfering. And once again, what have we laid out? Interference cannot be vocalizations, cannot be filming, cannot be yelling, cannot be screaming at people, cannot be talking. That is not interference. The ruling emphasizes that simply observing police officers at work, even if repeatedly, does not by itself justify detention or more intrusive police action without objective basis for reasonable suspicion. Do you see what we're doing here? We're unraveling Bootlicker's assertions. So now our most recent case is the 2025 case of Willis v. Mills. The plaintiffs are Javona Willis, Mary Stevens, and others, including on behalf of Dontarius Stevens. The defendant is Officer Juanita Mills, a West Helena, Arkansas police officer in the city of Helena, West Helena. So here's what happened. So officers, including this Mills, were arresting Mary Stevens at her workplace. Her son, Dontarius Stevens, approached within a few feet and asked why. Now here's the verbalization aspect. Asked why she was being taken into custody. Officer Mills told him to stay back. Just stay back. Because he asked a question. After she and other officers finished placing Mary and Dontarius' father, Warren Stevens, into police vehicles, Dontarius reportedly said something to Officer Mills. She then directed other officers to arrest Dontarius, even though he was not charged with any crime and was never formally accused of resisting or interfering. He was just arrested because he said something to her. Basically, he kind of got in her face verbally. The Stevens family sued Officer Mills in the city under a 42 U.S.C. 1983, asserting that the arrest of Dontarius violated his Fourth Amendment against unreasonable seizures. They argued he did nothing more than question police and stand nearby, conduct that by itself cannot justify an arrest. And the appeals court affirmed this. They affirmed the district court's denial of qualified immunity of Officer Mills. Here's some of what they had to say. Simply approaching or observing law enforcement and asking a question without interfering in a way that meaningfully hinders police activity does not provide either actual or arguable probable cause to arrest someone for obstructing government operations. Law enforcement may not use obstruction statutes to justify detaining or arresting bystanders who pose no threat. Bingo. Because there were disputed factual issues about the arrest, Officer Mills couldn't automatically get qualified immunity at the summary judgment stage. The court made clear that a mere bystander's presence in questioning does not constitute a lawful basis for arrest, absent objective facts supporting reasonable suspicion or probable cause of wrongdoing. Folks, we have so many court cases over and over and over and over and over again that have established, even outside of Terry v. Ohio, that you cannot be arrested when interacting with law enforcement in the sense of observing them, yelling at them, shooting video, talking to them. You can't be arrested for that. And, Buster, any penalties they pay is just really us paying them to project their power. That's why qualified immunity needs to be removed. It needs to be stripped away from these guys because they need to start, sitting. And more people need to be suing under these situations to the point where the taxpayers start to go, why are our taxes going up? That's the only way anybody's going to notice. So, folks, Connie demonstrated for me and opened a door for me here to be able to lay this out for you, that this is just how terrible we've gotten as a bootlicking society. We have been corralled into this mindset that we have to comply with everything. Just comply, just comply, just comply, just comply, just comply. Don't harass them. Well, what's harassment? Well, you don't need to watch them. Why? That's not harassment, and I'm protected in that. Don't shout at them. I'm protected in that. Well, if you shout at them, you get what you get. That's not what the courts are saying. That's not what the courts are saying here. We're starting to see Terry v. Ohio get unraveled a little bit, and it should be. But it's not happening fast enough. Folks, this episode, we're going to wrap it up here, but this episode clearly demonstrates that we're surrounded by bootlickers, and that bootlicking is incredibly dangerous, and it needs to be brought to a halt. It needs to be stopped because it is going to kill what's left of this country. It's going to kill what's left. I told you I'm black-pilled. I'm like, we have no hope. Based on Connie's response and 98% of MAGA, 98% of MAGA is so in bed with law enforcement that they can't be bothered to think straight. So once again, folks, I want to remind you, tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be on the 5 Till Midnight podcast. We're going to be talking current events and a little bit about my backstory, where I get to do my own appeal to authority and talk about why things are so important to me, about why I do what I do, and why I do the breakdowns that I do. If you haven't yet, please go check out the Justice for Haven list. Lots of content coming out in the new year. Big shout out to the guys at 5 Till Midnight for inviting me on and opening the door to have me come in and just absolutely like waylay their show, just wreck it. I might just, I don't want to be the end of it, but I might wreck it. But I'm super grateful for the opportunity, and I hope you guys will go check them out. Like I said, I might be streaming it here. Be looking for new stories coming out. Got a couple of mini documentaries that I'm working on. One about Blake Mosted and his fight to get back some normalcy in his life, and a little mini documentary about Haven and her family. And we're going to be having Haven's parents on the show here real soon, very, very soon. So I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate everybody who comes in and watches, comments. I appreciate the super chats. I appreciate memberships. And if you haven't become a member yet, or if you're interested in supporting the work that I do and you don't want to go through YouTube, please feel free to hit me up with a Cash App donation, $mbrrmedia. It does help. Things are pretty tight here for me and Mrs. Minnesota. She's currently between jobs, and we don't know for sure when she's going to be back to work. And it's not a good time of year. Which link are you talking about, STD? But yeah, I really appreciate all of you, and I appreciate everyone that stops in. Buster, it was good to have you back. Have you back in the chat. It's always good. But yeah, channel memberships, subscribe star memberships, super chat, super thank you, super stickers, $mbrrmedia if you want to cash at me. And 5 to midnight. I'll put it up in a community note when it's available. I don't think they have it up yet, but 5 till midnight, 5 TILMIDNIGHT, 5 till midnight. That's their podcast on YouTube. And it's a great show, folks. They're very funny and entertaining and very deep, and they're fun to listen to. And they invited me on. So that's 2 invites in a week's time. So I'm going to have to stay up a little later than normal tomorrow night. But yeah, very thankful for you guys being here. Thankful for all the support throughout the year, and looking to see the channel grow, and you guys all help with that. So until next time, my friends, until next year, well, every day actually, but until next time, fight for your freedom. It is yours. Fight for your liberty. It belongs to you. And sic semper tyrannis.
We are going for liftoff in T-30. Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. Secondary guidance systems engaged. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at